Greetings everyone, welcome back to Blade Bias. Today we are taking my long-term look at the cat. What have I learned? How has it been now that I've had a little bit of time to flip it and spend on my own with it? Well, I am about to tell you, but first we have a few things to get into before this video begins. I feel it's important to note that I paid for this with my own money. This was not sent to me for free by Nabalis, so any and all opinions are very obviously my own. And also, this Balisong is not exactly what it's going to be when you go to buy one if you decide to. Literally the day after I got this thing, they announced that they were upgrading their Teflon models to 7075 aluminum. And putting aside the fact that they decided to upgrade the models with the kind of less durable coating with a more durable aluminum underneath is kind of a weird decision. That is also ultimately, I believe, going to change the flipping profile of these ever so slightly. Because 7075 aluminum is technically denser than 6061 aluminum, so that means it's very slight, but you're going to get more weight in the same amount of volume between the two metals. So technically, the 7075 ones should kind of have a little tiny bit more handle bias. I don't know for sure, obviously. I haven't tried one yet, and I don't plan on it unless there's like an overwhelming amount of you who would be interested in me getting one of these new 7075 aluminum versions to compare against my 6061 ones that I do have here. But we'll figure that out at a later point. At this point, I just wanted to make it clear that it might be a little bit different when you get it, but I still wanted to give you my thoughts on the cat, considering that I got one specifically for that purpose. So, a little bit of a backstory in case you missed the last video. The cat is a collaboration, holy cow, stay in my hands, between South Korean YouTuber Seongbae, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, I'm so sorry if I'm not, and Nabalis. And Seongbae's goal was to make a public-friendly flipper. He actually went on a Korean TV show talking about Balisongs, and that experience really opened his eyes to how much he felt he needed to have, or there needed to be a public-friendly, cute, non-threatening design. So when Nabalis approached him a few months later, he was pretty quick to say yes. And through many different production changes and prototypes that you can all see documented on his YouTube channel, we have the cat as it stands before us today. And I think it's a cute little Balisong. In the box, it's your pretty standard Nabalis unboxing affair. You get extra hardware, you get their T10 pivot needle thing, you get a bite handle indicator, and you get a sample of thread locker and lube, as well as some stickers. But you also get this little card introducing you to who Seongbae is and what his goal was with the cat. Since 2013, he shared his joy of Balisongs and worked to change how people see them. Together with Nabalis, I created my dream Balisong, safe, friendly, and true to my channel's purpose. My name means Holy Grail in Korean. May the cat become your grail. Really cool stuff to see there. And the video that he made on his YouTube channel, I think, is worth a watch if you're interested in kind of the production behind this. So, how does the cat stack up as a public-friendly Teflon-coated flipper? Well, if you get the colored ones, that is. If you get white, blue, or purple, they'll be Teflon-coated. If you get silver or black, they will just be typical anodized aluminum. But I actually really like it. Oh, totally forgot. Also in this little piece of, box of extra hardware, which I didn't realize the first time that I had opened this, come these little plastic inserts. And I did a live stream. People were like, oh, you got to put them in. You got to put them in. I was like, oh, come on. How much change can this really do? I am not kidding you when I tell you that these little tiny plastic inserts unironically bumped my opinion of this design up by a solid point, if not more. They look great on this side. They look a little bit kind of weird on this side. Maybe that's my fault when I was installing them, but from this side, it looks excellent. It gives so much life to this design that already had so much to offer in that regard. But just the sparkle of like the silvery white eyes against the black blade just makes the design pop so much more than it did before. And it unironically kind of made me fall in love with how this thing looks. Not that I didn't love how it looked before. I still did like the design. But these just added a splash that really brought it over the finish line for me. So that was pretty cool. Good call on that one, guys. I really like that. So the Cat overall, a public-friendly, non-threatening flipper. I've been pretty vocal in the past about my opinions on things like that. It's very difficult to make a truly public-friendly Balisong because when you're flipping these things at full speed, people don't know what they're looking at, and it's very easy for them to get confused or scared in some way. So they kind of went the way that Squid went with the Squiddy AL, or that Nabalis went with the Cheese before this, where it's not really meant to be something that shows off while you're flipping. It's not meant to be a public-friendly flipper while you're flipping. More so that when you stop flipping, you can see that it's just a cute little guy and he's not going to hurt you. Kind of like Al, kind of like the Cheese. Although I do think specifically the Cheese goes that extra mile in making the blade white. Overall, I think it's really one of the best ways to do it. There's not many other ways, I don't think. Public friendliness is such a tough thing to design a Balisong around. And ultimately, I think they succeeded with the Cat. I do. I think it's cute. I think it's nice. But what I like more is how it flips. Now, I have to be honest with you. When I first opened it, I wasn't horrendously impressed with how it flipped. It just kind of appeared to me as another pretty good Balisong that adds to Nabalis' lineup that would be a pretty good pickup for almost anyone, but it didn't really do anything special to stand out against some of its Teflon-coated brothers, which I know people are going to be screaming at me for comparisons. We'll get into those a little bit later. But this has really kind of grown on me, surprisingly. Because initially, I'll be 100% honest, my view of this was that it's a very good Balisong for a beginner. You know, if you're into this design, then it's something that was really well done, something that you would very much be into, but it doesn't really do anything that keeps me wanting to flip it long term. In fact, it just kind of served as like girlfriend bait, kind of. You know how, or it could be any significant other bait, but you've got a hobby and your significant other isn't really into it, but then you get something that's to do with your hobby that's like cute and colorful and it looks like a cat, and then all of a sudden they're super interested in it. I kind of saw it like that, kind of like a little girlfriend bait Balisong. This is the Balisong that some guy buys, hoping that it'll finally be the thing that gets his girlfriend into Balisongs. I don't know if this person actually exists, but it's kind of what I thought of when I first opened it. Thankfully, I have turned a corner. And again, that's not the only thing that I thought of this. I thought it had its merits outside of that, but that was kind of my number one thought, flipping it for the first day or so. But since then, I have come to really appreciate not only how the Cat flips, but how it differentiates itself from its Teflon brothers. It would be very easy for Nabalis to just slip into making another thing that flips like those, but it really doesn't. And considering that these are all basically the exact same price, I'm kind of surprised they managed to do that because their product line is already kind of becoming a mess. Either way, the Cat flips what I can describe as very well. If I had to put it on a scale of like handle bias, it's definitely less handle bias than the Cheese, which is really interesting considering it has steel screws and the Cheese doesn't. But there was a period of time when I first opened this, and still to this day, when I'm flipping it a little bit slower, and I kind of am missing a little bit of momentum in its handles. I wish it just carried its momentum with its handles a tiny bit more, which is, again, strange considering that there are steel screws down here, so there shouldn't really be a problem with that. But it definitely is a more neutral experience from some of Nabalis' other stuff in this price segment. Although, unlike the Vulp, sorry Brandon, sorry Will, it actually does that more slightly neutral, more neutral feeling balance much better. There's no difficulty with chaplains here. Like, chaplains stick to your finger exactly as much as you would want it to. There's no problem with 0Gs, rollovers feel amazing, and it carries enough momentum both in the tip of the blade and in the ends of the handles to carry all the way through a fan and a choker fan in just the way that I would want. So really, I don't have any complaints with the overall flipping of it. The Teflon coating provides a good grip, but also a softer one. There's not too many hard edges, minus the blade. And this is something that a lot of people have kind of gotten on the Cat's case about that I'm not totally sure how I feel still. The blade does feel a little bit unfinished. The blade spine feels great, but ultimately these cutouts inside the blade are very sharp. If you get one of these, I think you'll notice very quickly how rough some of these cutouts are, and it's not really something that I feel on something like the cheese. It is still sharp here, but I think because this is Teflon coated, it doesn't come across as intensely as it does on the Cat. And I'm of two minds about this. Obviously, feeling that makes it feel a little less premium overall. But on the other hand, there's 0 point where I'm ever flipping the blade with that much scrutiny that I'm like feeling how sharp it is. Like, I'm not going all Jack Pyro here doing blade grabs and everything. The blade is realistically something that most people are not going to be touching other than the blade spine. So I don't really know if that's like a positive or a negative. I think I'm just going to leave it as something that I'll make you aware about, and you can decide if that's ultimately something that you care enough about. The one thing that I will say on that note is that this little lip right here, genuinely sharp. Like, that's genuinely kind of a point right there. And it doesn't feel the best if you somehow catch your finger right there. Everywhere else, though, feels great. Again, mostly due to that Teflon coating, everything is well-rounded. It feels well-machined. The cutouts and the handles aren't sharp. The jimping is actually excellent here. Provides enough grip for you to keep going, but not so much grip that it just kills your fingers, at least in my opinion. Your mileage may certainly vary with that. And the bite indicator is actually one of the best, I'm not going to say one of the best, but one of the better ones that I've ever felt. Because it's not one of the ones that, you know, slices into your hand if you do a bite handle chaplain like I have been doing. But it's rough enough that it's not, you're not going to miss it, right? Because there are some bite handle indicators, something like the cheese some people might feel about this, where, you know, you kind of feel it, but if you were really flipping around pretty fast and you weren't paying a ton of attention, you wouldn't notice. The Cat, you definitely notice, but it doesn't go so far that it's like, ow, I cut myself on my training tool. Because there are some bite handle indicators that are like that. So I think it strikes a nice balance for that. And I think that the Cat will ultimately be a really nice training tool for people. Will it be a good starter Balisong? Absolutely. Even though it has a different balance to the cheese, which I guess we'll get into comparisons now. The cheese carries far more momentum. The cheese feels more end-weighted, meaning that the weight is more towards the ends of the handles. So it feels like there's a ton of weight down here, carrying the Balisong through tricks. The cheese definitely performs a little better at slower speeds because of this, but also struggles a tiny bit more in fans and choker fans because of that extra handle bias. So the Cat, you kind of trade some of that momentum for maybe a tiny bit better performance fanning, choker fanning, things of that nature. But ultimately, the Cat does feel more neutral. It feels different enough from the cheese that I think you could notice a difference even if you were only an intermediate and you're only on your second or third Balisong. But not so much of a difference that it's going to be like an active problem for anyone who gets this instead of this. I think these are both perfectly valid choices for like a first Balisong or a training Balisong or whatever the case may be. My ultimate opinion, unfortunately, is that the cheese just flips better. I just feel more comfortable with the cheese. It carries the amount of momentum that I want. And the cheese kind of retains that budget Kraken kind of balance to it where it's incredibly consistent. The Cat definitely doesn't feel as completely consistent, but still does feel overall good. I can control it. It does what I want it to do, and I really have no complaints besides that. It's genuinely just a preference thing. I think some people are going to prefer the cat, especially because of the design, and some people are going to prefer the cheese. And that's exactly where I sit on it. In terms of design, I would rather have the cat, especially the blue one. I really like that pastel blue. But when it comes to flipping, I'm picking up the cheese pretty much every time. If I'm trying to learn tricks for how my flipping style has been lately, I'm picking up the cheese. If I'm trying to just have a little bit of fun and flip something, probably still picking up the cheese, but I would probably still pick up the cat. And finally, the Teflon Vulp. The Teflon Vulp is interesting because it feels... I think it's right in the middle of these two. It feels like it carries a tiny bit more momentum than the cat to my hands, which again is weird because there's no screws here. There's nothing to boost the amount of weight that's in the end of these handles. But the cat definitely feels the most neutral out of all of these. The Teflon Vulp's kind of weird though because it's a Vulp, so it has that kind of weird balance, but it's good because it doesn't have the Vulp's weird chaplaining to it. I don't really know, man. In terms of like handle bias, this is going to be tough. Most handle biased, middle, least handle biased. I think that's where I would put them. In terms of what's my favorite flipper, I think it's second favorite flipper, third favorite flipper. If not that, then these two are tied with each other because the Teflon Vulp does flip in a very weirdly good way. Every time I pick up the Teflon Vulp, I'm kind of shocked by how much I like it and how good it flips. But ultimately, it doesn't beat the cheese for me. And I'm unsure, I don't know, would I pick this up over the cat? I don't think I would because I don't pick up the Teflon Vulp a ton. But when I do, I really enjoy it. I think I would ultimately reach for the cat more. But I would enjoy flipping the Teflon Vulp more. Just because the cat has a more appealing design. But then also flipping them back to back. Yeah, I'm going to put them together. I'm just going to do that. Favorite flipper, tied for second. There we go. The cheese is still my budget king. The cat has not dethroned that. But the cat is an excellent, excellent option for someone who wants something that's cuter, who wants something that's maybe a little bit more neutral, or who wants something that has cute little glow-in-the-dark eyes. I think it's really cool. A non-threatening little dude. And, I mean, I think if you really want non-threatening, this blade probably should have been white or silver or something. But ultimately, I think it looks better with the black blade. There's been a lot of rambling this video. I apologize for that. So ultimately, the cat is good. I like it. I think this one, yeah, I think it's a good addition to Nabalis' lineup. I was worried it wouldn't be able to make enough of a separation for itself between it and some of the other Teflon things that they have. But I think it has. I think it flips on its own. I think it stands on its own, both in design and flipping and all of that, to be worthy of being a continuously restocked thing in their lineup without causing too much confusion to the end customers. But Nabalis is really getting kind of cluttered in their product lineup. So that's been the cat. If you really want me to get another one and kind of compare it with the 7075, because I do think the extra handle weight would maybe go a little bit towards making me like this a little bit more, but then it's also full weight handles when I kind of prefer weight down here. So maybe it would be worse. I don't know. If there's like an overwhelming amount of people that want me to compare a 7075, even if it's cheese or a cat or a Teflon Vulp or something, let me know in the comments. Maybe we'll see what we can make happen. But until then, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one. Later.